A very interesting development. If you drive for Uber, even Uber Eats as a delivery driver, both, this is going to be very important to you. Just last week, the company announced this, which is a la a very similar exact feature on DoorDash, but I want you to take a look at what could happen, right, with a cash trip. This is new from Uber, and it reads, at Uber, we believe access to transportation helps create greater opportunities for everyone, but not everyone has easy access to a bank account or credit card. In fact, around 15% of US households are considered underbanked and tend to use alternative payment methods, especially cash. And many people just prefer to use cash. This is just announced cash trips on Uber. And I want to show you what might go wrong. What do you have to do? What is this? Is a good option? Let's continue. By providing this new option, we can help make sure payment methods aren't a barrier to accessing transportation and provide you with more ways to earn. Now, this is skewed to rideshare. Doesn't matter. I want to show you the tie-ins to DoorDash because on delivery, and we see a lot of these programs, especially if we're talking about Uber, transition across niches from mobility into delivery on Uber Eats. So this is skewed towards mobility right now, but might not always be. In fact, around 15% of US households are considered underbanked. We went through that. Let's continue here. What does a cash trip look like in the Uber app? A cash trip will be similar to all your other trips, but with a couple of small changes. A couple of small changes, but one big transactional change at the end. Okay. Let me know, by the way, if you would take cash trips. If this is the first time you and I are meeting, my name is Mike. I help you make money in different side hustles. We look at different gig apps and changes and I was going to say improvements. I mean, do you think this is an improvement? Updates, we'll say, to different platforms may give you different earnings options, but what is the risk? Let's continue. So, including what you will see when you receive the cash trip offer, how you collect cash at the end of the trip, and what you will see on the trip receipts in your earnings balance. Now, here's the thing. Everyone's going to be opted into this. So if you have an Uber driver profile, again, this is kind of skewed towards mobility right now. Go in there, click on the top left, the 3-line menu, go into your menu, and click on preferences. This would actually be on your home screen, actually, bottom left. You know, the home screen when you open the Uber driver app. Click on the filters down below on the bottom left. Go into preferences. Do you have this right here? Let me know. Eligible drivers will be automatically opted in when the feature is launched. So you must opt out in the preferences setting. It's under trip filters, you can see shown below here, of the Uber driver app if you do not want to accept cash. Do you think it should be vice versa? Do you think you should be opted out and then you have to opt in? Let me know. But the default is opting in. Please note that it may take up to 15 minutes for your preferences to refresh. You can always opt in, back in at any time. So it says verified riders and your trip offer card. Again, we're talking about mobility in this initial announcement here. Only verified riders can pay for trips in cash. Now, verified riders have passed certain checks to help confirm their identity or may have shared a government-issued ID with Uber. On your offer card, you will see the rider's verified badge number 1. You'll also see their rider rating in a cash badge to let you know before you accept whether the rider will pay in cash. Cash trips will not be available. Interesting. From 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. I just discovered this blog post. Wow. What do you think about that? So I'm just kind of reading this the first time with you here. Cash trips will not be available from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. local time. Because, I mean, rideshare was the first gig niche that I started almost 10 years ago here in Pittsburgh, and I drove primarily late night, like bar hours, 10 p.m. until 4 a.m. But if you have the promise of no cash trips on those later bar hours into overnights, good thing, safety-wise, let me know. Now, here's our first look at the offer card here. So imagine this. And you know what's kind of interesting? I'm just going to say they're kind of starting with the more volatile, higher risk offer type, starting with rideshare mobility. I mean, look, I'll show you right now. I mean, you know, DoorDash has cash on delivery. If you don't, here you go. DoorDash has cash on delivery. So I'm taking an offer on DoorDash, and then, you know, the customer just gets me cash. I've done one whenever I make the delivery. Now, DoorDash says, you can see here, recommend carrying a little bit of change, $5, $1 bills. How do you feel about giving change? And Uber is addressing this as well, as far as if you actually need to carry change. But back to them, starting with rideshare is kind of volatile versus food delivery, I feel like. Okay, so here's the offer card. So you see the rider rating, cash payment badge, and then the verified badge because it's for verified riders. Ending the trip. So the moment where you're going to actually have to collect the cash, let's see what it looks like right here. Ending the trip. When you complete a trip and select collect payment, you'll be shown how much the rider is expected to pay for the trip. You will then be prompted to enter exactly how much the rider gave you. And again, if we're thinking about Uber Eats, it's like the same thing. So I'm making my delivery, I put on, you know, confirm delivery, then you're going to collect the payment from the delivery customer. But let's continue on their verbiage here. You will then be prompted to enter exactly how much the rider gave you, even if it's more or less than the displayed fare. Now, instantly, they say, listen to this, they say, never dispute transactions directly with the riders. See FAQs for more information on overpayments or underpayments by a rider. And again, think about what could happen on food delivery here. So literally, unless they provide you exact change, they're going to overpay or underpay. Unless they say, hey, you know, it's $15.25 and they give you $20, keep it for the tip, then, you know, they don't care. But there's going to be some kind of mismatch here, hopefully intentional because of a tip, but let's see. So here's our first look at what this is going to look like. So on the mobility sector, it's saying kind of what you'd expect, right? Here's your drop off. There's the pin. Drop it off so-and-so. They are a verified rider. Then it says collect payments. It says collect payment. So-and-so will pay, in this case, $17.50. Then it asks, how much cash did you receive? Did you receive $17.50 or did you receive other amounts? And you can see you can indicate that there. So how many of those are you going to get? Like, imagine there's just this one, but if for whatever reason, I don't know why, but if this gets pretty popular, I don't know why, but then you're carrying more and more and more cash throughout the day. I don't think that's what's going to happen. I don't think this is going to be super popular. Even on DoorDash's cash on delivery, I don't think that's super popular. You might get one during a shift. The chances of even getting two, but this is rideshare. It's slightly different customer base here. But you know what that does? If you get anything, right, then you're carrying cash. Now, we've had this discussion before. If not, you know, would love to have you part of the team here. Consider subscribing. The apps have experimented with cash payments before. That's not necessarily new. But the big objection is like, I don't want to carry cash. And think about it. The more and more cash you're carrying and or the more popular this gets, it's just kind of like taxi, right? It's just kind of like taxi before mobile payments, where it's like a lot of cash transactions. Okay, let's see what else they have to say. So here's the tip receipt, or the trip, I should say, receipt. When the trip is completed, you will see your earnings and how much cash the rider gave you, your payouts on the trip receipt. Cash payouts are negative because you already received the money physically from riders. So Uber does not need to include that amount in the balance paid out for the end of the week. That makes sense. That's like the same thing DoorDash does. They deduct it from your payment because they assume you get the cash ahead of time, right? And you'll indicate how much cash you got. So taking a look here, here's your first look at what cash trips looks like on the post-drive earnings screen. Fare, surge, bonus pay. There's your earnings on this trip. This is a per trip basis, rather, not the whole day. There's a payout subtracted for the cash received. $6.08 on this offer. Okay. Your balance summary. Now, similar, right? Similar, if we just go to the balance summary right here. So you can see the balance summary, earnings minus payouts right there, $85 would be the cash in this example. Payments received in cash will show a negative amount under yes. Payments right here. Because again, you basically got it ahead of time. Okay, so the premise is pretty simple, but it's all about the what ifs, right? It's all about, all right, I mean, I'm going to accept cash at the end of the ride. And again, we'll kind of think about food delivery as well after, when I'm making the delivery, the same as cash on delivery, like I mentioned on DoorDash. What if? So this is what the company says about the what ifs, prioritizing your safety. So listen to this. What are your thoughts on cash trips on Uber? Let me know. Do you think it's going to come to Uber Eats? I mean, I feel like we've tested a lot of this before, but okay. Will it come back or will it be more widespread? We know carrying cash may come with increased safety risks, which is why we built the experience with your safety top of mind. Please review the below safety recommendations, explore our in-app safety features that are available to you, and visit the Learning Center, etc. Okay, here we go. Never dispute the transaction with riders. If the rider does not have enough cash to pay, safely finish the trip, collect the payment from the rider that they are able to make, and Uber will handle the collection of any remaining funds directly with the rider. Uber will always make sure that you are paid what you were owed within the driver app. There you go. There's some guaranteed pay. It doesn't say immediately. I don't know if it's like, well, we'll try to reach out to the customer 24, 48 hours. If we don't hear from them, then yeah, we'll just front it to you. I would imagine that the funds will still get paid. It's going to be in there. Even if they shorted you, Uber's going to front it. And then on the back end, they'll try to, recoup some of that. You know what that does? You know what that does? That turns Uber into like a collection agency that they're not going to want to do, trying to get some funds here from customers who have underpaid. I don't think they're really going to want to do that. So they said they'll pay you right there. But if there's an underpayment, they will reach out to the customer on the back end, basically. So it's going to kind of turn Uber into like a collection agency almost. Now, most rides are fine, but if you have some bad actors that know they could get away with, one or two rides and they could underpay, granted, there's probably going to be some moderation there, but interested to learn more about that. Next, You do not need to provide change. That is different than the cash on delivery that I just showed you with DoorDash, where they recommended, hey, carry some ones and fives for some change. Uber is saying you don't need to carry change. Keep the extra cash and tell the rider that Uber will provide Uber cash, like credits, in the amounts if they overpaid. Now, again, I don't see a lot of volume coming from these types of orders. I'm just imagining, like, it all sounds good on paper, but that moment when you have a passenger in the vehicle and they said, hey, can you give me my change bag? You're like, oh, I'm instructed not to give change. Like, well, I gave you like 10 extra bucks. Do you have cash from the rest of your rides today? And then you're like, I'm not supposed to do that. And it kind of has a potential to have some awkward customer service scenarios. So they say, do not provide change. Keep cash in a place where other riders and others cannot see it. Stands to reason. I mean, even back in the day, I started 2015 with rideshare, they had the tip jars. You remember that, like in the center console, and some drivers still have that transparent tip jar. And just having cash out there, not the best practice for at least some drivers don't want to do that. Deposit your cash regularly to avoid carrying too much in your vehicle. You can always cancel the trip if you feel unsafe. You can. So when would you cancel that? The only thing there is like, how to cancel it if the passenger is already in the vehicle. You can do that. You can certainly drive and end your trip early if you want to, right? Explore our in-app safety features, record my ride, reaching out to support, etc. But I want to look at some of these frequently asked questions. And again, let me know if you have cash trips. So go into that filter, go into your home screen of Uber and go to that trip filters. Do you have cash trips? Because you're going to be automatically opted in. So if you have it, please let me know if you have it. I do not have it here in Pittsburgh, at least not on my profile. So it says right here, is it in my city? Check that preferences or trip filters that I just mentioned. How do you know if it's going to be a cash trip? It'll say, have the verified passenger badge and the cash badge. If they don't have enough, that's fine. Take what they can give you. Uber said that they'll pay the rest. So what if they pay too much, though? You're not required to give change. Very interesting. And they can still give a tip. If a rider tries to pay cash on a non-cash trip, then they prohibit it. Uber prohibits cash payment for non-cash trips. Kindly refuse to take the cash. So my initial verdict on this, let me show you this one more time. Right here, here's what it's going to look like. Starting on mobility, starting on an unknown number of markets. So please do let me know if you have this. My initial verdict on this, I don't think you're going to get a ton of these. It's starting with rideshare. Certainly, there's going to be passengers that, for whatever reason, they pay with cash, they prefer with cash. Hey, I got some cash on me. I just want to burn through it. I just want to use this stuff. And then purchase how I normally purchase with my phone or cards. So I don't think you're going to get a lot of these. Should you opt in or opt out? That is up to you. I think it's going to be the same thing as cash on delivery. I'm thinking of other offer types on DoorDash. Obviously now we're getting into the delivery space. But I feel like it's going to be one of those features, kind of like Dasher tasks on delivery. I don't think you're going to get a lot of volume. Package returns. Have you ever gotten a package return on DoorDash? The new round trip deliveries, have you gotten any of those yet? So it's going to be there. I don't think you're going to get a lot of those offers, but maybe offers that are a high business focused city, tourist city, and again, for whatever reason, people are using cash. If you don't want to deal with cash, if you feel like it's going to be a safety issue, I would just opt out. I don't think it's going to affect your day to day. I don't think there's going to be a lot of volume there, so simply opt out. But remember, you're automatically opted in. So this is cash trips on Uber. I want to get your questions right now. So if you're watching on the replay, definitely post that down below. Let me know what you think about cash trips. I think the main thing is going to be the concern with safety. And most every ride is fine, but now we're adding another kind of cog here or what have you into the equation. It's carrying cash.